When we think about keeping our minds sharp as we get older, our thoughts usually jump to things like brain teasers, Sudoku, maybe even learning a new language. But what if one of the best tools for the job was actually something way simpler? Something a lot of us probably did as kids, with a pen and a simple notebook. So let's get right to it. Could a simple diary, a journal, actually be a secret weapon for your brain health? I mean, it sounds almost too easy, doesn't it? Just writing down what happened in your day, could that really have a real measurable impact on how well your brain works? All right, to figure this out, we've got to look at the evidence. We're going to start by digging into this very specific question about this seemingly simple, everyday habit and its potential link to our memory and our minds. And our story really starts back in 2014. A team of researchers over in Japan decided, you know what, let's actually find out. They wanted to see if there was a real scientific link between writing in a journal and brain function in older adults. Basically, putting that old saying that writing keeps you sharp to a proper test. So how in the world do you even begin to study something like that? Well, these researchers were pretty smart about it. They set up a really detailed investigation to get the data they needed. Okay, first things first, they needed to find the right people for the study. They brought together a group of 227 folks, all aged 65 and up. And the ground rules were pretty simple. No one could have a dementia diagnosis, and they all had to be able to write. Makes sense, right? This way, everyone in the group could potentially be a journal keeper. And here's something I think is really cool, how they defined journal writing. It wasn't about, writing some deep philosophical novel every day. Nope, they kept it super simple. It was just the act of writing down what happened and how you felt about it. Didn't matter if it was in a fancy diary, on a calendar, or just a plain old notebook. Now, to actually measure brain function, they used this really clever tool called the Kana Pick-out Test. The best way to think about it is like a workout for your brain. People had to read a short story, but while they were reading, they also had to find and circle specific Japanese characters. It's a great test because it measures your attention, how well you understand what you're reading, and your processing speed, all at the same time. All right, so the stage is set. The test is ready. The first big question the researchers had was, okay, out of these 227 people, who's actually keeping a journal? Is this a common thing? And honestly, the answer might surprise you. Get this, almost half of them, 47%. That's a huge number. It shows that writing in a journal isn't some weird niche hobby. It's actually a pretty common practice. But here's where it gets even more interesting. For the people who did keep a journal, this wasn't just some casual thing. A massive 70% had been doing it for over 10 years, and a whopping 88% wrote in it every single day. This is wild. We're talking about a serious long-term commitment here. So why? What was the main reason they were all doing this? Well, for the vast majority, 76% to be exact, the answer was really straightforward. They didn't want to forget what happened each day. It was first and foremost a memory tool. Of course, other things popped up, like it being a habit from when they were young, or even trying to actively prevent dementia. Okay, so we've got this big group of really dedicated, long-term journal keepers. And now we get to the real heart of it all, the moment of truth. Does this lifelong habit actually have any connection to how well their brains performed on that cognitive test? I mean, this is it, right? This is the big question. After all that work, did the numbers actually show a difference between the journal writers and the non-writers? Was there anything there? And the answer was a big, clear yes. The results were what scientists call significant. The data was undeniable. The group that wrote in journals consistently scored higher on that cognitive test. And what's really important is that this wasn't a fluke. It was true for people living at home and for those in care facilities. But wait, there was another really interesting little wrinkle in the data. The researchers also found that the journal writers were more likely to be socially active. They reported going out more often and having more conversations. Now, the study can't say if journaling makes you more social or if social people are just more likely to journal, but it definitely paints a picture of a more engaged life overall. Okay, so we've established this clear link, but why? What's going on here? What is it about just writing stuff down in a notebook that could possibly be connected to a sharper mind? Well, the researchers had a pretty compelling theory about that.
Here's what they think is happening. When you write in a journal, you're doing so much more than just putting words on a page. You have to recall events from your day, you have to use language to describe them, and you create images in your mind. And as the researchers themselves put it, this whole process seems to activate the total function of the brain. It's like a full body workout, but for your mind. hitting memory, language, and reflection all at once.
Okay, now this is super important. Before we all run out and buy a truckload of notebooks, we have to be really clear about what this study tells us. It shows a very strong link, a correlation. It does not prove that journaling causes your brain to be sharper or that it prevents dementia. Think of it as a really, really important clue, but we'd need more research to say for sure that one thing directly causes the other. Still, the evidence is pretty powerful, isn't it? It strongly suggests that this simple, cheap, and honestly pretty enjoyable habit could be a really positive thing for our brain health. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought, the question you see right here. If just 10 minutes a day could potentially make a difference, what's the first thing you'd write down?